Hey everybody, and welcome back to another one of Mudflap's movie reviews. My name is Mudflap, and today I'll be reviewing one of the biggest movies of 2008, The Dark Knight. Let's get started. So The Dark Knight for me is probably one of the best Batman movies of all time. I may be a little biased because I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan. He's my favorite director for a lot of reasons, but the effort and the work he put into The Dark Knight just really shows, and it's really a beautiful, dark, cinematic movie that 10 plus years later people are still talking about how awesome Christian Bale was as Batman and Heath Ledger was as Joker. Like, you can't get better casting than that in this movie. But I'm also a huge fan of Hans Zimmer, who composed the score for this movie. He's my favorite composer, so when you have my favorite director and my favorite composer working on a movie together, I gotta say it's gonna be a masterpiece. And honestly, The Dark Knight is pretty dang close to a masterpiece, in my opinion. I'm sure there are people out there who just can't stand Christian Bale as Batman, but for me, I think he did a really phenomenal job at both Bruce Wayne and Batman. That's kind of the scale I judge, the Batmans on, is you can be a really good Batman, but you could be a really terrible Bruce Wayne. But if you're able to do both businessman and Cape Crusader super well, I'd say that you're in a pretty good spot for that. Of course, Heath Ledger's Joker will never ever be forgotten. It is just really sad that he didn't live long enough to see, the hard work and, the long hours that he put into perfecting the Joker's character. But his memory still lives on in many of us, and we will never forget just how iconic he was. He really stole the movie, really, from Batman at times. But I just love the dynamics there. I love the casting choices. Everyone was just wonderfully casted. Great job in casting, but also just how beautiful this movie is. Just how, it's a pretty long movie, but, if a movie's made right and the director knows what he's doing, 2.5 hours can go by like nothing, and then you're wondering where did all that time go, because you were just so immersed in this movie. And for me, I'm just always so immersed in The Dark Knight. I don't care if it's 3 hours long, like, it's still going to be a really great movie. It's just because of how great a visionary Christopher Nolan is and how he continues to just make amazing movies. There are a lot of great moments in this movie. I really love when we first meet the Joker, just how everyone didn't really take him super seriously. I mean, he is, after all, like, a Joker. Like, that's kind of the point, but he's just a crazy guy, and he just takes over Gotham in a way that a lot of people didn't see coming. Then, of course, when you see The Dark Knight, with all of his cool toys and the Batmobile and the Bat motorcycle, I just really love seeing all the interactions between the Joker and Batman, especially near the end, but they find the final fight, but also all the technology that the Batman uses. The technology he uses to spy on the entire city is always just a crazy scene to me. Just how smart and resourceful Bruce Wayne is when it comes to that. And if it wasn't for Mr. Fox, he wouldn't have any idea how to do most of that. So Mr. Fox was definitely a huge component to that awesome scene. But I just really loved all the times the Joker was on screen. Just his presence was just so demanding and so awesome. I mean, you just couldn't look away. You just wanted more of Heath Ledger's Joker, and of course the Batman. Every time you would interview him, the interview room, when Rachel was kidnapped, that was a really awesome scene. And of course a darker scene in the movie, but is always a really important scene, is when Harvey Dent becomes Two-Face. That's where the movie just really reaches its just pinnacle, in my opinion, is where we get to see that change in Harvey Dent and how the Joker was behind all of that. The man with no plan. He fooled everybody. And he used people in a way that he didn't have to do much. The Joker really didn't do a whole lot. He just used people as pawns and moved them in his chess game, and he ended up getting the result he wanted. That's what just makes the Joker in this movie just so, I hate to say lovable, but the Joker in this movie is a pretty lovable character. I mean, you just can't stop looking at this guy and getting enough of this guy, from the way he looks, the way his mannerisms are. His laugh is really on point. So when this movie came out in 2008, I know there was a lot of hype around it. There's still a lot of hype around The Dark Knight for a few main reasons. One of them is Christian Bale's portrayal of Batman. Is he the best Batman out there? Heath Ledger by far is the best Joker. We don't even have to debate that. But, Christian Bale's Batman, is he the best one? What makes him the best? Is it not as good as it really is? Like, Is it all just really crazy effects and not much plot line? Like I said, I'm biased, so obviously I think this movie was like the best movie ever. But for some, I guess I could see how they may think that the hype just didn't live up to it. If you're not into Batman, or if you don't really understand Christopher Nolan's directing style either, maybe that'll take you out. You gotta kind of understand the director's style to understand the movie at times. For me, I don't think this movie is overhyped at all. I think it lives up to the hype. I think the hype is exactly where it should be. You know, some people may rate it higher than others, but for me, I think The Dark Knight is the best DC movie out there. And I don't know if we're ever going to get back to that awesome point in time with DC Comics, with the movies like they are. It just seems like the writing and the directors have kind of gotten a little more lazy, and it's gone a little downhill, and not as strong and powerful as the Dark Knight trilogy was. But I always have hope. I'm still holding out for some great DC movies, of course. With all the Batmans that we've seen since then, I mean, Christian Bale's Batman was like the 5th Batman to appear, and then since then we've gotten Ben Affleck's Batman and Robert Pattinson's Batman. And each Batman shows a different kind of Batman, different side to him. So each Batman's different, so I guess you can't really compare them the best at times, because each one's going to be different and unique in its own way, and I love that. That's what makes it so exciting and so enthralling when you watch movies like this, and a character who's been around for so long and just so iconic. You know, every person who puts on that Batman's mask and the cape, it gets in their own Batmobile, like, you just always hope that it's going to be as great as The Dark Knight was. I have to talk about the Joker just because of how Heath Ledger just dove himself into the role of the Joker, and how he spent months and months and months getting into character but staying in character as well, and it really was pretty detrimental to his health and a lot of dark stuff, and he committed suicide sadly before this movie, you know, came to theaters. And I have to believe a part of that really came from how dark Heath Ledger's mind had to get to become the Joker. He locked himself in a closet for like 4 months. There aren't that many actors out there who would go to such lengths to become a character like that. It's pretty good. That's really great method acting. Christian Bale's an awesome method actor too, but Heath Ledger, when you see an actor like that really take on the role seriously, like, you know that when you see the finished product, all that work and all that time and that mentality that he was in the entire time, when it shows on screen, that's what makes the movie and the character just, you're never going to forget it. Absolutely legendary performance. We still remember to this day, and I don't think Heath Ledger's Joker will ever be beaten in terms of how accurate and how scary the Joker was, and how, you know, you're trying to get into the mind of the Joker, and you kind of relate to him at times. The best villains out there are the ones that you feel you can relate to, but you almost make him into a human. You don't see him as a bad guy. You don't see him as mentally deranged. You can relate to him on a more human level. And if an actor can get that out of a viewer, that is just phenomenal. That's the goal. That's the point. That's what they're going for. So for The Dark Knight, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 Mudflaps. And before you go, drop in the comments below, who is your favorite Batman? And as always, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and I'll see you next time.